I'm joined by Cloud9's High right now, just a day after his official retirement announcement, to discuss his career, retirement, and also what's next for him. Hi, thank you so much for being here. So first off, I'd love to know, in your mind, when did your professional career start? Like, when do you think you became the high League of Legends pro player?
So, I think I became a professional when we qualified for the LCS. Before then, we were just doing it to try and be professional. Until you're in the LCS, you're not a professional league player. Even if you're a popular streamer, you're still not professional in the sense of professional. So once we made it into the LCS, our first split, that's when I determined, that's when I thought we were professional players at that point.
And as you were trying to get into the LCS, obviously you missed the first split, came back. Everyone really knows that story. But did you expect? It's been such a short couple of years, but at the same time, like so much has happened. What were your expectations when you made it into the LCS? Did you think that your life would end up like this, traveling all over the world and going to Worlds and all that kind of thing?
Well, getting into the LCS, I knew what I was getting into is a world foreign to the one I was in, and it involved playing against teams from around the world, against teams in your own country. So I was expecting to be able to play against international teams, and I was looking forward to that. As far as being where I am now, this is where I wanted to be from the start anyway. Whenever I was going to be done with my career, I was planning on working with C9 anyway in the fashion that I'm doing right now. I wanted to grow the brand. I wanted to work with Jack. I wanted to create Cloud9 and turn it into that identity that I thought it should be before I handed over to Jack. And he's done a very good job to do everything and better than I possibly could have done. So I'm basically where I expected myself to be eventually. I didn't expect it to be at this time, but I was expecting to do this eventually.
I mean, let's talk about Jack a little bit, because you guys made it into the LCS. At first, Jack picked up a different team, ended up with you guys, and I mean, I've already seen you guys seem very close. So what has it been like working with Jack for the past couple of years, and what influences he had on your life?
Jack is by far the best thing that has happened to us as far as my entire career before that as well. And giving another chance, I would 100% pick him to be our manager and CEO again. He's done everything in his power to make sure that we have a good life, for us to succeed, and genuinely cares for us. He does his best to come out to our every show, even though he lives far away, and he's always supporting us, watching us, and doing what he can to be there for us. So I'm very happy for him coming into the picture when he did and taking over.
Looking at, you make it into the LCS and you have these next couple of years, what do you think was the height of your career?
Well, honestly, before All-Stars, we were playing in the playoffs, and I recall our entire team had a total of something ridiculous, maybe 8 deaths through the course of 3 games. And I was feeling really good about the team. I felt that we had everything going for us. Our synergy was going really well. We understood the meta really well. Our champion diversity was really good. And we were basically playing at top-notch form, and we were ready to take on whatever team that was going to be at World, or All-Stars rather. But unfortunately, my lung collapsed at that time. And ever since then, it's just been a little bit different. I don't know if I necessarily got worse, but something within the team dynamic just got a little bit different, just because I was gone for a month and they had to figure things out. Yeah. So since then, it's just been different from what we had before, on top of teams just getting better, and just kind of snowballed.
It does seem
what it is now.
It does seem like the Paris All-Stars trip was a bit of a change for you guys. I do want to first go into the run that you guys had up until that as a team. Why do you think it was that Cloud9 was able to have such success being this team that sort of came out of nowhere? You guys qualified in and then had this huge run of success for basically a year.
Well, honestly, everyone in their role was just by far either the best in their role, or at the very least be able to contend for the best in their role. So when you have a team of 5 players that is at the very least best 2 or best 3 in the role in the region that you're playing in, you're going to be a good team. Now, on top of that, I felt like we had a very good understanding of how to play the game. If you go back then and you look at our champion priorities, pick and ban phase, we're by far the best at that. Lemon, Herald did that And he started the entire trend of bringing notebooks and papers up onto stage with a planned out pick and ban phase. Back in the day, people would just try to remember. They'd be like, hey, this is what we should do, and they'd try to remember that. But then we came along, and Lemon came along, and we revolutionized that aspect of pick and ban phase. And that was a huge part of our success. Outside of that, we were very selfless in our play. Sneaky back in the day, he was playing a lot of utility carries. He didn't want to be like a superstar status in the sense that he wasn't making calls or like doing things to make him look good or anything. He just played for the team and wanted to win, and everyone on the team just wanted to win. So when you're all working together to try and win, then games get a lot easier. And on top of that, my teammates trusted me completely and fully. If I wanted to do a tower dive, they're like, all right, let's do it. Anything I wanted to do, they had no questions about it. They didn't argue it, they didn't question it, we just did it. And when you have 5 people on the same page doing the same thing, and the fact that you're all really good, it's going to be really hard for you to lose. So that's why in our first 2 splits, we lost a total of 7 games. 1, we were just by far better than the other teams, just because of everything that was going on with our team. And 2, it's just the teams weren't that good back then. Yeah. Like, they weren't bad by any means, but we were just so much better than them, they had to catch up and they had to like get better to compete against us.
What impact do you think, I mean, along those lines, what impact do you think Cloud9 had on the North American scene? And maybe where would it be without you guys? Like, it seems like you guys have fundamentally changed it. And so for you, looking at the impact that you and your team had, you know, what was the long-standing impact?
Well, I'm not entirely sure how the North American scene would look in the case that we didn't come in. I'm sure they would have improved and gotten better because that's the only way they can really go. They weren't going to get worse, but I'd like to think that we came in and basically showed everyone what you're doing is wrong. You need to change what you're doing to compete against us and get better. So I'd want to say our team started a legacy of just dominating the competitive scene in North America, and that forced teams to get better, it forced teams to get their act together, and forced everyone to be like, hey, look at us, you guys need to get better, you can't play versus us. So then doing that helped everyone get stronger in a faster amount of time.
A moment ago you mentioned kind of the faith and trust that your teammates had in you in those early days, and I think that there are few people that have this reputation of just being this outstanding shot caller and captain. You know, like, especially if you look at other North American teams, there's a lot of really good players and people will say there's a lot of talent, but very few people would argue that there's a standout leader. And for you, that was the case. Monte Cristo even saying, I think recently, or maybe it was Thorne, that you might still be a top 5, you know, shot caller in the world. Why do you think it is? What about you allowed you to have this kind of like leadership role and lead this team in those ways?
Well, as far as the leadership skills, I think that just attributes to like how I am as a person. I don't really like being told what to do, and I don't really like having to follow someone else. I've tried playing for other teams back in the day and like trying to listen to other people, and I always just like disagree with them because I feel like they're not doing it correctly. So it was just a combination of me being extremely confident in what I want to do and it being good things to do. So I understand the game very well, and I learned a lot from a lot of my losses back in the day. Like, for example, playing against Martin and losing to him in that base race, it was kind of like a shell shot kind of thing where I made a bad call and that affected the future of my other 4 teammates, and I felt really bad about that. And ever since then, I've just done my best to make as good calls as I can. So I would never be in a scenario where I just ruined the future of 4 of my teammates. So having experiences that grew me into being a better shot caller helped a lot. And just the fact that I'm very, generally speaking, confident in who I am, and what I do, and how I look at things like that. So it just fits me as a personality and as a person. It's just I'd much rather be the leader of something than rather following someone else.
Looking at other players in the League of Legends competitive scene, or maybe even in other esports, even outside of your team, do you think that there's anyone or even a couple people who really impacted your professional play, or somebody that you really looked up to? Or was this sort of all you building your own legacy on your own?
If there were ever any player that I respected for their playstyle and mimicked, it would be Reginald. He was by far the best mid laner when he was playing until I came in. Like, I know there are other mid players that are good at the time too, Skyra, and I don't even remember the other players. My memory sucks, so that's not a fault of them. It's just my bad. But, like, Reginald was by far the best mid laner. Even though people always made fun of him and, like, gave him crap for not being that good, he was by far the best. Because you can go back to the spring split or the summer split. Whenever Bjergsen had to go back to Europe to take care of his visa issues, and Reginald had to sub in for his Super Week, he beat every single team except for our team, and he did it pretty dominantly. Like, he did well in his lane, and he actually, like, got, like, solo kills and, like, just did well. So, like, even though he was retired for, like, a couple months, he was still by far, like, better than these other mid laners. So during his time of playing, Reginald was by far the best. And we played against TSM a lot. Our relationship with them was very close. So I spent a lot of my time playing against the best mid player in North America. So that kind of just adopted my playstyle similar to his. He'd always ignite me level 2 or 3 and just teach me about training, like trading and lane phase. And I kind of just picked up things from there. And I just really enjoyed his way of playstyle. He was always, like, trying to do whatever he could to win the fight, even if that meant him looking bad. He wanted to win the games, and he didn't care how he looked. Even if he was, like, 0-5, but whatever he did is, like, making him win the game, then he's obviously okay doing that. And I like that playstyle a lot. I didn't like the whole, everyone give me all your money, give me all your attention, just let me carry you 1v5. And I'd rather just, like, do everything I can for us to win the game.
Do you think that there was anyone that, maybe even not in a negative way, became your rival over the past 2 years? Anybody who you felt was like a strong opponent or somebody that pushed you even in competition?
Well, I don't know if there's necessarily, like, one specific rival that would, like, force me to, like, get better or something. Obviously, if you think of mid laners in North America, you'll think of Bjergsen. The moment he came over, he started doing really well. His first split here, albeit it was good, it just wasn't as good as the most recent splits. As he's played, he's gotten much better, and basically he's forcing other mid laners to either get better at their role or get better at controlling the map with their role. So, like, what I'm trying to say with that is Bjergsen is very good. Like, even 1v1, his mechanics are amazing, and he's a very good player. But the reason why he's so good is just because he works very well with his team. Like, you watch his games, he can control the wave at opportunal. Alright, that's not a word, but, like, in a good way to force you to lose an advantage, either through dying or through a lot of experience in CS. And his team plays around him, and they do it very well. They'll get vision control together. They'll force pressure mid to push that pressure elsewhere. So he's really good at doing that, and just playing against his playstyle over the course of the year or two, it's been very hard. Just because, like, our playstyle is, like, the complete opposite of that. I'm sent to survive on my own, whether that be, like, 1v2ing or, like, just having, like, low amount of priority on my lane. And I was able to get away with that against, like, other teams. They were weaker. They couldn't abuse, like, the fact that I wasn't getting help and stuff like that. But as, like, the meta changes and teams get better and find the weaknesses of our team, then it just became more and more exploitable. Like, when you are playing a support carry role mid and you're not getting help and the enemy mid laner is, like, a superstar carry, and you're expected to survive against him when they're putting pressure there, it becomes a hard thing to do, you know? So, like, trying to change my playstyle over the years wasn't really going to happen unless, like, the team was able to, like, adapt to that. And I don't think we ever did do that.
So let's kind of flash back to something we were talking about before. And it's the end of this first split of Bjergsen coming in. And Cloud9 has had this dominant, basically, 12 months. And then you guys are set. You're the team that's headed off to All-Stars in Paris to represent. And this is kind of this defining moment, I think, for a lot of Cloud9 fans where things started to shift. You were set to go, and then you had the lung collapse, and you were in the hospital. As you mentioned before, it seemed like things were never really the same after that. What was it about that? Was it the lung collapse? Was it just being away from the team? Was there something that happened with you that shifted, something that impacted your performance? What was it about that moment?
Well, I think it's just the fact that it led into another split and we didn't have a lot of time to practice with me after I, like, healed up. I had to, like, start playing more and get back. Like, I had to start from the very bottom again and work my way back up. And doing that was hard. and then we get to Worlds and the season or the summer split, and we don't beat TSM. We go to Worlds and we don't do well there either. And a lot of that was based off of me being punished. People would put priority on trying to punish me for my mistakes and put pressure on me, and I wasn't able to handle that correctly. And having pressure on you without having help from your team when you need it, or not acting to it correctly, you'll start dying, you'll start looking bad, people start saying things about you, and like the community starts saying like, hey, he's a bad player, et cetera, right? So then it comes in spring split of this split, and we're not doing well the first 2 weeks. Practice hasn't been going well, games haven't been going well. It's just like a kind of like a super downward spiral of people starting to believe what others say about you, like teammates believing what Reddit says or whatever you see on the internet, and then that just starts affecting your play. And I don't know, it's just like things just change from there, especially just because we viewed how to win the game differently, like players on the team and like analysts and like coaches and stuff too. And when you have like members of the team thinking that there are different ways to win and you can't come to a conclusion on which way to win, then it becomes hard to play the game correctly because everyone wants to do something else. And then they'll start questioning everyone's calls.
You mentioned in your statement retiring that the team atmosphere just hadn't been that good this split. You also mentioned earlier in this interview that you guys were winning in part because you had so many really good players on the team. Do you think that your sort of struggle to come back after having to take time off for medical issues last summer, do you think that that just kind of broke the golden equation or whatever that allowed you guys to succeed, where it was hard because maybe mid lane was struggling and the rest of the team couldn't compensate, or do you think that there was any kind of component to that?
I think it was just the meta changes affecting our play. Over the course of time, just the meta has been slowly shifting away from so Balls is a very good top laner, right? We've always had him be a carry top laner, and Meteos is a very good carry jungler, and we've always had him as a carry jungler. And then Sneaky started as like support carry, AD carry, but then he started to become more of a carry. And when you have 3 carriers on your team, you can't really have room for a 4th. But when the meta starts shifting towards having a more mid-center focused, but you're still playing around having the top lane focus or having the bot lane focus, then it becomes harder for you to win games. And obviously this is just my opinion. I don't know what the other team members think, but I felt as if we needed to put more of our priority on mid and go from there, because at Worlds and at playoffs, we a lot of time lost based off of me losing lane. And now I wouldn't be losing lane 1 versus 1. I have died 1 versus 1 before, but a lot of times there'd be external factors that would cause me to fall a bit behind, and they'd use that advantage that they gain mid to pressure elsewhere and just start beating us that way. And I'm the main initiator on our team, and it's always been that way. It's been getting better with other people initiating, but back in the day, even if I'm Zed or whoever I was, I would just initiate the fight because I would know how to do it correctly. And initiating the fight when you're a squishiest person will almost always lead to you dying, most of the time. So I would play a sacrificial pawn kind of piece, throw myself into the fray, do what I can, and let my team clean up. And just as the meta changes, you can't really do that as well because champions go away. I've lost a lot of champions like Soraka, even something silly like Teemo, Kha'Zix, and all the champions I used to play a lot. They're just not champions that were as viable anymore. Backline mages become important, like Orianna and wave clear ones that aren't necessarily my forte, since they more or less need a little bit of help mid to start excelling a lot. They're not that strong on their own, and they need coordination with your team. So it's just the meta started shifting away from me on top of not me after the injury, and it just kind of snowballed into going worse from there.
You've been very vocal in the past about saying that you can take the community criticism and that was not even a component in your decision to step down. But it sounds as though there was, maybe internal conflicts or just other factors that affected you maybe emotionally or personally. Is that a fair statement?
I would say that would be a fair statement. So I would be lying if I said that I didn't care about the community hate on me. Obviously I did care, hence why I made posts about it and brought it up as a thing. Yeah. But I didn't let that affect my play. Because, in the end, honestly, it's a bunch of people that don't really know that much about the game, trying to tell me like what I did wrong, trying to tell me how to get better, and literally they don't really understand the team dynamic of what we had and what our goal and like how to play the game is. So like it's a bunch of people that have a lack of credibility trying to tell me like what's wrong with me. Like sure, there might be like some fair criticism in there, like people like saying like maybe expand champion pool or something like that, right? Like there would be fair criticism in there, but like the majority of it would just be from people that like I disagree with what they say, and my teammates would disagree with it too. And just like, if you know better, you shouldn't let things like that get to you. Like if someone just says like you suck mechanically, or like you just always like dying or like feeding, like, and you let that get to you when you know it's not true, then it's not gonna be good for you. So I was like more than confident in my play, and I knew there was things that I could do to get better, just like as any other player could get. But as far as like community hate, it's always gonna be there no matter how good you are. Even like when Beers and he's like super good, right? He lost to Power Evil, and like people start like dumping on him. So it's just like no matter who you are, you're just gonna get crap eventually whenever you lose, and you can't let that get to you. And as long as your teammates have your back and believe in you still, and like trust you to be the player that you think you are, then it goes really well. Because like having your team have confidence in you is just like such a good pride and ego boost to you, and just makes you play better, feel better, and just the general atmosphere of everything just goes better. But when people don't feel that way about you and just feel like you're not going to do what is expected of you, then it just becomes, I don't know, it's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that some of the success that you guys had was at least in part due to the fact that your teammates had a lot of faith in you and your shot calling, and it sounds as though perhaps that deteriorated over time. How did that affect you? I mean, you said just now that that's something that really hits you hard, but do you think your performance suffered and that sort of led to this kind of domino effect?
Well, first off, I think there's a giant, what's that word when circle jerk? Is that the word where like, yeah. So there's two like giant circle jerks first off about my play. There's like a giant circle jerk that praise my like shot calling ability and like just say like, that's like all I'm like, that's like, I'm super good at that and like, that's what like I'm known for. The other circle jerk is just like saying I'm terrible mechanically, I'm always losing lane, et cetera, et cetera. Like even playing against like international mid laners, they're just always saying I'm losing. So there's like these two circle jerks, one that says like I'm good at shot calling, the other one that just says I'm just like a terrible player. So like, I don't think I was a bad player by any means, and obviously they don't think I'm like that bad either, just like relative to being like a top contender, I guess. But I was always under the impression that I was pretty good mechanically and my lane phase was good. It was just the fact that we didn't have like a play style that was centered around trying to make me look good, or like me trying to do plays off of that would make it seem that I would do bad. I feel like I've watched a lot of our games back in the past, and people are always saying like I lost lane to everybody, like worlds, etc. And like I remember watching them, and just like there's always like these tiny factors that like did something to skew the lane in his favor that I had no control over. So I just wanted to say like I didn't think I was bad mechanically. My quote unquote depreciation of skill wasn't as big as people made it to be, and I think just the main thing was just my teammates not trusting me to being able to carry and to be able to shot call.
If all of this started right around the time or right after the fact that you were hospitalized, do you think if your lung had never collapsed, that Cloud9 would have perhaps performed better and you would still be playing at the moment?
I could see that being a thing, because like before the lung collapse happened, we were playing extremely well. I remember watching the games over. We had very clear play. We had very low deaths. We always had a good goal objective, and we were always doing things correctly. We had very low mistakes. But then things went downhill from there. So I guess that'd be one of the reasons why we started like declining. I don't really know why. Obviously, just health issues. I can't play as much, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't really know if like we would have been like a #1 world team. Ideally speaking, I think we could have been, but just given what happened, probably not.
When you look at, like the fact that your teammates lost faith in you, was there ever a temptation to split and go to a different team? You said that you always knew that you would stay on Cloud9, and even after your time as a player, you transitioned into this. But a lot of people when this rumor hit last night were talking about like where's Hai gonna go? You had analysts saying like, oh, he's really available, like people should pick him up. Why not go to a different team and keep playing?
I think I have too much pride to do that in the sense of, one, I wouldn't want to go to a team that I would deem worse than the team I was on, and I don't think I'm necessarily that good to be able to move onto a team that's better than our team. So it's just a combination of me not wanting to go to a team that I don't want to play for because I feel like they're worse, and the fact that I can't get to a team that is better than our team because I'm not like good enough for that or whatever. And before Cloud9 was what it is today, I tried making it a reality before Jack came along. So I've always wanted to be with Cloud9 from the start, regardless of what happened. I mean, I can definitely get swayed if someone just decides to like send me a boat of money, like here's like $1 million or $2 million. Yeah. Then I would definitely change my mind because money speaks, right? But until then, I'd much prefer just sticking with Cloud9 and doing what I've been wanting to do.
I mean, we've heard rumors of Chinese organizations offering boatloads of money to Korean players. I mean, if they showed up on your front doorstep, there's a chance we could see you compete in China, maybe?
Well, I don't think I'm like a superstar player for them to want me. Like, if they show up on my doorstep and be like, hey, you play for our team, I'll give you $2 million, yeah, sure, I'm off to China. But I don't think that's a reality. I don't think that's likely. And I'm very happy with what I currently have anyway, working with Jack and doing what I'm going to be doing. I'm more than content with doing that. Yeah. So I don't really see myself going to China. I don't speak Chinese either, so that'd be kind of hard.
What is the relationship with you and the rest of the team now? Because you said like there was atmosphere issues and that kind of thing, but you're going to be working with them presumably still. So where you stand?
So I'm human, right? So there's one side of me that wants Cloud9 to do bad. Like whoever the new mid laner is, there's one side of me that is like, hey, I hope they do bad just so that people know that like I wasn't the issue of Cloud9 or at fault of it, right? Yeah. But if I were to think that way, that just makes me very selfish and like kind of like a whiny little, and I don't really want to be like that. I much prefer to have my teammates have success even though I'm gone. I much prefer them to get better. I much prefer them to win worlds and to be happier than they were with me. And I hope that that is a thing that happens in my relationship with them. I want to be good. Even if we've had differences with how we view playing the game, I don't think a lot of those issues are relative like personal issues. I thought that wasn't really a thing. So like I'm still friends with them. I still generally like them a lot. And the only reason why I would ever like want anything bad to happen to them would just be like for my pride or ego. But like honestly, my pride and ego don't matter at this point anymore. I'm not playing, so it's whatever, right? I just want the best for them. And I think we should be able to stay friends and have a good relationship with each other.
How did all this come about? How did you retiring come about? How much of it was your decision? How much of it was pressure from the team and general situation?
Well, as you can see, I have like pain on my wrist and issues with that. So just like looking at the amount of solo queue games my teammates would play and the amount I could play, it just made me feel bad just because they're putting a lot of effort to try and get better. And I can't match that effort just because my body won't let me. And it's just kind of depressing because like we weren't doing super well and we needed to get better. And I couldn't put in as much effort just because I'm like limited in what I can do. So that made me feel really bad for my teammates. And even if I wasn't like the main issue, I would still need to improve and get better and to start playing better and better, right? But I wasn't able to do that. So I don't feel like it would be fair for my teammates to have someone that can't put in as much effort as they can, even if like they're not the issue. I'd rather them have like everyone on equal ground, everyone putting in as much effort as they can, an equal amount of effort rather, so that they can like be the best team they can. And I just felt bad that I couldn't match them.
How did that moment come about? I mean, thanks to Charlie, we now know that whenever you left the house, you guys supposedly cried. This is a very emotional moment for you guys. Like, how did everything come out with you stepping down and you leaving the house?
Well, leaving the house, I told myself I wouldn't cry, right? And it was going pretty well. So my room's in the back of the house, right? And if you've seen the house tour, which you can check out, where is it at? It's on a YouTube somewhere. Yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, it's a HyperX tour, I think. Well, it's on YouTube somewhere, so if you haven't seen it, you could check it out, see like the room setup. But I'm in the far back, so for me to get out the house, I literally have to go through everyone's room, and which is fine. So here I am in Sneaky's room. I'm talking to him for like a little bit, and like the tears are like not there. I'm holding him in. It's going fine. But I go into Balls' room, and he just like kind of looks at me like in the eye, and I'm just like kind of looking at him in the eye too, and like I literally can't say anything more than like, hey, I'm leaving, because like I could start feeling it coming on, right? But then the next room would be Lemons, because Danon and Beth were following me. Yeah. So then I had like a little bit of time to get to like Lemon's room, so I got to like calm down like a little bit. And then I start talking to him, and I'm pretty confident like me and my relation with him will be like perfectly fine, since we were like the closest, like he's the one I was closest to on the team. And I was just saying bye to him, no tears yet, still going fine. But then like I get to Mitos' room, I see them start coming up. I'm trying to talk to him, like say bye. I can't like say more than 3 words before it like starts coming. And I finally get to Charlie's room. He turns around, and that's like where I just like started breaking down. Like I just started crying, and he started crying, and it was like some sad stuff. It's like I felt like how I felt when I broke up with my first girlfriend. That it was like, you know, like heart getting torn out. And like I was like turned around to leave, and like Mitos was there, and like we went for a hug too, and like I'm still crying. I walk to the door, and like Beth and like Dana are seeing me out, and like Beth starts crying too, and like I can't like stop crying at that point. So like I get to my car, and like I'm sitting there in the driveway for like 10 minutes, just realizing that what I've been doing for the past 2 years is over, and I'm just sitting there crying for 10 minutes. And it's been a long time since I've cried, since I don't really like crying at all. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like I should be like, I don't know, I just don't like crying, just cause. And I don't know, it was like pretty sad, honestly. And then driving down to SoCal from NorthCal after that, there would like be sad songs that start playing. I just start thinking about like everything that just happened, and it's just, I don't know, it was some sad boy day. And it was actually just the other day though.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday actually. But I don't know, life moves on as one door closes and another one will open. And I'm excited to see what I can do with Cloud9 like from here on and out. And there's no point for me to dwell on what's happened, since I can't change it.
What was the timeline on all this? Like, this happened yesterday. How soon before this was the decision made?
Well, when we landed from New York, it was like Monday night, I think.
Yeah.
And my teammates, they took a shuttle home, and I took a taxi home with Jack. That's when we started talking about this and like finalizing it, and that's like when I just started talking about like everything, I guess. So from there, we got home, and he started telling everyone like what our plans were and what I was doing. So we land from New York, people find out the information. I can't really sleep that night, since like I'm just up thinking about everything. I pack all my clothes, I fall asleep for like maybe 3 hours, wake up, go take care of everything I had to take care of, which was like going to physical therapy, letting them know that I was like moving down to SoCal, getting all my stuff packed, and I'm ready to go at like 1 p.m. or something like that, 2 p.m. I'm ready to go. I have all my stuff, and that's when you saying bye happened. So like within like a 12-hour time frame when we find out, I'm out of the house, since I don't really want to be there if I don't have to be there.
I mean, how long was this in discussion too? Because there were people that were speculating online saying like, oh, your father came out to see you compete here because you thought it was going to be the end of your career.
So I've been thinking about when I've been wanting to retire for a while now. And obviously every player has to think about that, right? When they want to be done playing, how they want to be done playing, like, are they happy with what they've done? Are they proud of what they've done on the scene? Are they proud of their accomplishments? And I feel like I was at a point in my life where I was pretty happy with what I've done. Obviously, I could try to shoot for winning worlds again, but how realistic is that goal? And how much time am I able to actually do that with these wrist pains? So after the end of the season, I was just thinking more and more about like, would this be the time for me to step down so that our team can have the best chance at winning worlds as they can, and making sure that I don't get too injured from my wrist. So flying back from New York, I just remember talking with Jack for a while, just like trying to figure out what we want to do with this. And that's basically when we found it out. I've talked with him in the past before about retiring and like when I should like do it and like how about doing it, and just like he's just always being accommodating with it, making sure like I do it when I'm like ready to do it, and like would be happy to do it and feel like it wouldn't be like a forced down thing. So he just like helped me talk out things like what I want to do, and like I figured this would be a good time to do it.
What do you want your legacy to be? Like if League keeps going another 10, 20 years and they look back at Cloud9 as being one of the first teams and that you guys had one of the first like amazing runs in this region. How do you want people to remember you?
I'm personally proud of the things I've done, and I feel like I know what I did. So in the case people don't agree with that or think I did something different, then that's their opinion, right? Just like I have my own opinion. And I don't need confirmation from others for me to be happy with what I've done. So I'm very happy with the things I've done on my own, and I'm proud of what I've done for myself. So as far as like whatever legacy I left behind, if any, that's up to anyone else to believe what they want. And for some reason, everyone just like thinks that I left like a good legacy or like a positive thing behind, and they think I should be like honored or like remembered, then great. But if not, it's not the end of the world, since I'm happy with what I've done and I'm proud with what I've done.
You look at the high that was celebrating as he qualified into the LCS, and you look at the high now that is retiring and moving on to continue to work in esports, but not as a player. What changed for you as a person? Like how did you grow, if at all? What's the difference?
I think as far as like who I am as a person, I'm generally speaking the same kind of person as I was back then. The only thing I would say would be different would be like my awareness of everything that's happened, like people, life, social, like just like I grew as a person. I wouldn't say there's been like some giant change from 2 years ago, since I'm generally speaking similar to how I was before I was famous. I don't really think I've changed that much, honestly, as far as like that goes, but I've become a lot more aware of like issues around the world, just like opening my eyes and meeting more things since I've like experienced the world. I've traveled to Korea, Vietnam, all parts of Europe. Well, not all parts, obviously, but like a lot of it. And I've just become more cultured and just basically grown up a little bit. So as far as who I am as a person, it's more or less the same. But I'm obviously more experienced and aware of things.
Do you have any favorite moments? If you think back to, I mean, you had a long drive down here yesterday. Are there any moments with Cloud9 as a team that will really stick with you, or some like happy moment that just kind of brings a smile to your face?
Honestly, I just really enjoyed living with these guys. They've been a part of my life for like 2, 3 years, and I've had so many good times with them. Like just like even those random like things, like being at like a house together, like just like hanging out, like drinking a little bit and like playing together. Like, all right, this might be a little bit of a secret, but I don't really think it matters too much since it's a long time ago, and I won't tell who. But like we've done scrims in the past where like we were drunk for it, just because, you know. It was for fun. Yeah. We were like having a good time. We were just trying to like, we did it, and just like things like that, just like hanging out together, just like playing the game, like generally just enjoying each other's presence. And I think those are the things that I'm gonna remember, like all the memories I just made with them, like doing the most random things like that. And I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that.
I don't think you will.
All right, we will hope so, but I don't know. It was just a very pleasure to live with those 4 guys, and I'll miss them.
End of the interview, I always ask pro players at the end of whatever post-game interview if there's anything they want to say to their fans or anybody out there. But this may be a little bit more of a momentous occasion than those. Is there anything you'd like to say to fans or supporters of yourself, or even other people in the industry that have been with you or worked with you in the past?
Well, I'm very happy and just generally amazed at how everything has come about, how many fans that we have, that I have, and how nice people are to me. And if I were given to do this opportunity again, I would 100% do it. So I'm very thankful for all the things that I've gotten to experience, traveling the world, meeting all these different people, and making all the friends that I have now. And whether or not people share the same views as I did on myself as a player, that's up to them to believe, right? And I'm fine with that. So the only thing I wish for people to do is to keep supporting our team, even though I'm not a part of it anymore. Whether our new player, whoever he is, I hope that they support him and don't like give him any crap or anything for no reason. Like, I'm still going to be with C9. I'm still going to be rooting for them. You'll see me in the crowd cheering for them. And I just hope that whatever happens with Cloud9 from now on as a League of Legends team, that I hope that they succeed and get better from where they are now.
Thank you so much for the interview, Hi, and I I hope that everything continues well for you as you move on to further areas of Cloud9. Been a fantastic player to watch and to interview over these past couple of years. So thank you so much. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of our coverage of all things LCS at gamespot.com/LOL.
Wait, I do this with my teammates after we win.